everyone. Welcome back to Muse. This is Hannah, and I am speaking with Adam McArthur. I'm so excited to meet you. I've heard so many wonderful things about you.
You're so sweet. I'm really happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
Definitely. Well, first of all, before we get into obviously the big project of it all, I would like to just ask you. I personally have a love, obviously, for interviewing actors, but I really love getting to learn about the voiceover process because I think it's
hmm
something that's not very talked about. And I
hmm
really want to open the floor up to you. But first of all, how did you begin your journey into voiceover acting in particular?
Well, I knew from like a really early age that I wanted to be an actor. I don't know why. I think I just loved things like the Power Rangers and Home Alone, and I was like, I want to do that. That seems like fun. Um, so I had pretty much like always begged my parents to put me in an acting class, and the acting class that they ended up getting me a Christmas present to take classes at was a place in San Francisco called Kids on Camera. And that acting school was run by a lady named Judy Berlin, who was a voice on Sesame Street at the time. So, San Francisco for like the entertainment industry is a small but mighty community. So, pretty much like if there's an acting school, all the agents know, the people coming through there and stuff like that. So, she had some auditions come through the school that were basically like teen boy voice auditions. And at that point, I was just taking classes for everything. I mean, we were doing commercials and scene work and all different kinds of stuff. So, I wasn't like VO focused, but then these auditions came through, and she asked me if I would audition, and I did. And one Macy's radio commercial turned into like 36 or something like that. And yeah, once I found out that I could get a paycheck for what they were sending me to the principal's office for, which was, talking too much, I was like, I want to do that. That seems like fun.
I love that you were able to like take an experience like that, obviously, and make it a positive one. Like you said, I mean, it's not like you did anything wrong. You were just a chatty kid, and I
I was
think
just,
that's
yeah,
obviously a fine thing.
yeah.
Oh. Well, I'm fascinated by your story. I heard that at around like 16 you basically started your paid gig journey and then you kind of basically never stopped from there from what I understood. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my first paid professional gig was those Macy's radio commercials. And essentially what I did was like I knew I wanted to do cartoons. And what was cool is like in San Francisco, they have a tendency to sort of like send you in one direction, like one niche of the VO industry for people who kind of start in LA.
Mm.
Like especially with like demo reels and stuff like that. And I don't know if because San Francisco was a smaller community that they sort of were just like, do everything. But I basically saved my money from those commercials as a 16-year-old and like a year later paid for my own animation demo reel so that I could try and do cartoons because that's what I really wanted to do. So yeah, just like one thing kind of beget the next and so on and so on.
Definitely. Well, and that brings us up to KKJ. Now, I would love to give you the floor to be able to speak about obviously what's taking place with this series so far. I'm never a fan of spoiling anything. I'm a huge fan for teasing what you can. I know that we're having season 2 starting to roll out here. And I'm also curious for you to tell our audience. I think this is so fascinating. Obviously, you're on the dubbing staff for America. What does this
Mhm.
process look like having the episode already come out? Do you watch this ahead of time? Are you trying to bring a certain element of a mimic, or are you given that creative freedom to kind of bring just Adam's take for the American version of this show, if that makes sense?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Oh man. Okay, so Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, JJK. Been a beast of a show. It's been amazing. As an actor, there's very few times where sort of like all the stars align and you get this one really special project that ticks all the boxes. I mean, from a sheer acting standpoint, my character Yuji Itadori is just a dream role, basically. I mean, he's a good boy, but he goes through a ton of tragedy in his story. And then just to clarify, season one is out. There's a movie in between, and then all of season two is finished. Season two is finished. We're currently waiting for season three. Um, but it's a dream project as far as like what I get to do as an actor, the character, the story itself is amazing. Like even if I wasn't in it, I would be watching it because it's totally a unique, once in a generation kind of show. So it's that, but then it's also got an amazing fan response. So the fandom is crazy. You know,
Mm.
you never know. Oftentimes you'll work on a series, and I've worked on many shows where you'll hit one or two of those things, but rarely it's all of them. And uh, I basically just live in a constant state of hype. Like even though season two is finished, the manga, which the anime is based off of, so basically like the comic books in Japan, those are still coming out with chapters weekly. So, for example, leaks and spoilers came out for the chapter that's coming out on Sunday. They came out last night. So, if I
Wow.
log on social media, my character's name is trending on Twitter. You know, there's like 80,000 tweets with hashtag Jujutsu Kaisen. So, it's just a really, really special project. And there are few things in the US, like Western animated comedy or Western animation, things like that that do the same thing. So it's been really really cool to be a part of all of that. Um, yeah, as far as like the production process goes when I'm recording, so yes, you're correct. So the episodes are already animated and out and released in Japan for Jujutsu Kaisen specifically by the time I get to see them. So it releases, I'm basically watching with the American audience at the same time. The next week we record it in studio in English, and then the week after that it's on TV in English. So that was the JJK production pipeline. There's another show that I'm working on now, another like kind of big hype anime called Kaiju Number Eight, and that is sort of unique because the pipeline is much different. They're simulcasting it, so we actually got to record the episodes before they ever aired on in Japan, and they released the English and Japanese at the exact same time, which is like, I mean, people used to have to wait for English dubs for years, and
Right.
so the fact that Jujutsu Kaisen is even 2 weeks behind is already pretty good.
Mhm.
But for them to drop at the exact same time, basically like when they're watching it in Japan, it's launching here as well for Kaiju Number Eight. So the production schedule can vary depending on the show. Um, but either way, the animation is finished. So when I go in and I'm doing my dubbing job, it is um, I liken it to acting inside a box because you have your start and stop points. You know, your character's mouth moves. I can't affect that essentially. So I have to bring all the life that I'm going to bring within that. So I definitely try to honor the source material, the manga, when I can watch the Japanese version before I go in for any series. I try and take note of what that actor's choice was.
Mhm.
Um, but I also think it's really important for dub actors to not try and mimic and not try and imitate. I think you have to kind of find your own what you bring to the character. You got to trust that you were cast as that character for a reason. And even though it might give sort of a different take than what the Japanese actor is bringing, um, that it's also still a valid interpretation of the character. Yeah.
No, most definitely. That was a beautiful response, by the way. You hit like
Thanks.
that I like was thinking about and touching on. I think that's very fascinating to find and kind of navigate that balance of what you're bringing to the table versus what you've already seen and heard. But then, like you said, you have to trust the process. You were cast for a reason. So I think that that's a really interesting take on everything that you were mentioning. Now, when you are recording, are you given the luxury of like, I know during COVID, I've interviewed a bunch of different voiceover actors and they were like, oh, I built out my own studio situation, like in my apartment or in my home, or are you going to the studio or do you have the option to be able to do so? I know a lot of people like to go to the studio and take that journey and make that their work day.
Yeah, I much prefer to go into studio. So that was very unique in season one of Jujutsu Kaisen was we started in October of 2020, which was, as you know, the height of COVID. So everything was shut down. I recorded the first two episodes from my house, and it was for me, it was JJK was my first ever anime. So I had, worked in voiceover for 22 years, but anime just for one reason or another is usually something that is done a little bit earlier in a career and at least historically, it's not necessarily the case anymore.
Right.
Um, But in 2019, when the Disney show that I was on, Star versus the Forces of Evil, was ending, I was like, what else do I want to do? Like, I've done a Disney show. I'm actually the voice of the Disney XD channel. So I've like done,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of cool stuff. I don't know. So just like as a person, I was like, well, I mean, what more could I ask for, Like, what do I want to do? And I was watching a show called My Hero Academia, and I was like, it just seems like they're having so much fun. What about anime? And I talked to my agent about it, and he was like, yeah, we don't really do this kind of work, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but you know what? Let me look into it. And actually, I say agent, he was an assistant at the time. He's now my agent.
Oh, wow.
Um, and his name's Sam Frischman. He's basically he took an idea that me and one of the other actors who also wanted to do anime, a guy named Zeno Robinson, who's had a ton of success, also in the anime and Western animation space. He's incredibly talented. But he got this assistant sort of Sam sort of took this idea and ran. And so all of that to say, little time skip ahead. My first anime that I ever booked was Jujutsu Kaisen. So, lead on this show, ton of hype going in, height of COVID, have to record from home, new director, new genre, new studio. I was, not that I'm not seasoned, but I was nervous. And I was like, a big portion of the nerves was because of having to do double duty as an actor and also an engineer. And I
Mhm.
think that's the kicker for a lot of actors who are recording from home. It gets really tough, especially in anime where the range of emotions is, 1 minute you're delivering a line that's a thought that's supposed to be in your head, and the next minute you're screaming at the top of your lungs, and then the next minute you're like, that like very genre specific anime, like crying or something like that. So, you're adjusting knobs while you're doing that. It's very distracting. So I recorded 2 episodes, and then I called Sam and I was like, dude, I will take a COVID test every day if I have
Yeah.
to go into studio. Is there any way that they'll work with me and I can go into studio? And they actually said yes. So we went in. I got to re-record the first 2 episodes, and then I was in studio even during COVID, like for the rest of the time. With that said, there was a ton of other stuff that I had already been doing from home before COVID. So, yeah, so I still have a home studio. All my Disney XD promo stuff that I do is all recorded from home. Those sessions are so short. I had one yesterday. My workday was literally about a minute and a half.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so, driving across town in LA, I would spend 2 hours in my car to
Right.
record for about 5 minutes. It makes sense to have a home studio for that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of studios are opening back up and bringing people back in, and I do love to see it. I think there is something about the camaraderie of working together and not being stuck in your house all the time and getting out and treating it like a work day and all that stuff. So yeah, I much prefer going into the studio.
I love that. I'm the same way as you. I like the work-life balance separation. It gets really hard when you're working at your kitchen table and then you're going to go try to go into your bathroom and freshen up and go out and meet your friend. It's
Yeah,
very for me personally. So I love hearing you speak to that. It makes me feel validated.
yeah, no, totally.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, obviously, congratulations with everything. I think it's amazing. I love hearing you speak about this because you can tell that you're coming from such a place of like, obviously, excitement. It's very evident that you love what you do. It's very evident that you have this wonderful ability. I have two more directions that I want to go, and I don't know which way I want to take it first because Disney XD is like ding in my mind because I grew up watching Disney Channel, of course, but then I remember Disney XD was always on as well. And then the promo would always be driving traffic towards Disney XD. Let's start with that. How did you book this gig? I love that you are
Uh,
working in space. That's insanely nostalgic.
yeah, this is my absolute right place at the right time kind of story. It happened when I was working on Star versus the Forces of Evil,
Okay.
and I was working pretty closely with the marketing team for just marketing the show. And we did this really unique thing where we did YouTube lives as our characters on Star versus the Forces of Evil. So it was the first time this had ever been done in the history of YouTube, in the history of Disney. Adobe made this was before Character Animator and Adobe now software. came out. They had basically beta tested it with Disney on this project that we were all doing. So they basically made an animated puppet. I was sitting at a laptop, much like I am now. The webcam was on me, but instead of seeing me, you would see Marco Diaz from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And I was controlling him and doing his voice, almost like a video game, but it was a live chat. So fans could go on and watch, and they could, questions were asked. I had a team surrounding me. One person, a buddy of mine named Ryan Clark, was kind of helping do some of the controls of Marco's gestures and all that stuff. Jill Hotchkiss, who is head of marketing and stuff all of that for a channel and all that stuff, was sitting to my right, fielding and filtering questions, and it was just this like, I don't know, massive team sitting in front of a giant screen of multiple screens, this big engineering board, and we pulled off this like really cool new thing, and we had rehearsals for it and a few, like maybe two or three different lives. So I don't know if it was a rehearsal or one of our actual shows, Jill said to me, she was like, "Hey, we're looking for a new voice of XD. Would you want to audition for something like that?" And I was like, "Yes, like, of course I would. Anything you got." First of all, anything they needed, I was ready to do because they were all such sweet people. They built such an excitement, a joy, and like were really innovatively pitching and promoting Star versus the Forces of Evil. So I was basically like, yo, whatever you guys need, Marco Diaz is with you. I'm here for that. Like, whatever you need. But so she asked me this, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, they sent the audition over to my agent, and I think it was one of my most scrupulous auditions. And I think part of it is because they wanted to make sure that the voice of the channel didn't sound like Marco Diaz, a lead on one of their big shows at the time. So it just had to filter down the hierarchy of approvals. And yeah, I think I'm going on 7 years of being the voice of the channel. So it's my longest running at this point VO job that I've ever had, and I'm absolutely thankful for it. The team behind it now, so it's not necessarily the same team. Jill kind of oversees it, but the producers and the audio team that I get to work with on those, they're just like the sweetest people. So it really is. I'm totally lucky. It's a total blessing, and yeah, it's been a really really fun job.
That's amazing. In 7 years, I mean, for 7 years in any gig at all is just, it's
Totally.
so incredible. And then for you
Yeah.
to, I love it. I just remember sitting on my couch and just watching Disney all the time. When I saw that on things that I can speak with you about, I was so excited. I was like, that is such a neat point. I have to talk to him about that. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's a little VO niche that
Yeah.
not a lot of people get the opportunity to kind of do because they are these sort of long running. They're not constantly switching these voices out. They want to have some kind of brand identity and stuff. So yeah, it's been really cool.
It's
Thankful.
amazing. And obviously, I really want to ask you about, I know I was looking at your Instagram and it looks like you have some fan meetup situations like up and coming.
Hmm.
And obviously, I'm sure you've done plenty of them. I myself, I attend the Comic Cons and all the cons and everything like that.
Awesome.
Obviously for interviewing and everything like that. But I love
Yeah.
being able to pass by the booths and see everybody interacting with their fans. What has that been like for you to be able to be in the space and to be able to interact with the people who support you most? Like, what is that?
Uh,
To be so
it
surreal.
It's so cool. I mean, it really is so cool. I explain it all the time. Like, to me, it feels like it's something that's happening to my best friend. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like, how lucky are you? That is so cool. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, it's me. That's crazy. It's just like, yeah, it's really, really cool, especially with a show like Jujutsu Kaisen. I mean, people come to see me all the time for Star versus the Forces of Evil and other shows that I've worked on. But JJK specifically, like I said, it's sort of this like, cultural phenomenon, once a generation show, and people want to come up. They want to talk theories. They want to talk about the work. How I sound. They want to talk about all the stuff. And yeah, basically what it boils down to is, I mean, like I said, I'm a fan of this stuff too. So it's just a bunch of fans geeking out about the same thing and having good combos. And yeah, I love it. I love it.
That's incredible. I think that that is so wonderful that have that opportunity in that space to be able to meet your fans like that and to be able to just geek out and just chat with them. And obviously you're making their day. It's so cute. I love watching like fan interactions. I could watch
It's
clips
really special.
and
Yeah.
all. So sweet.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I just want to say congratulations with all of your success. You are such a delight to speak with.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I would love to give you the space to obviously plug anything in particular that you would like for our audience to obviously go see. And obviously any social media handles where they can follow you and keep up to date with everything that's going on with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can find me literally on all the social medias, X, Instagram, and TikTok at NinjaMac, NinjaMac. And I would love for people to check out Kaiju number 8. Like I said, English dubs dropping when the sub drops every Saturday morning, usually around like 10, 11 a.m. Pacific. Yes, check out Kaiju number 8. It's amazing. I voice a character named Reno Ichikawa. And then go back, rewatch JJK seasons 1, 2, and JJK 0, the movie, are currently streaming. All of these things can be found on Crunchyroll. And yeah, enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.